What's up, everyone, and welcome to Project XTalk, an Xbox podcast. That was number 205, presented by Save the Game Media. I'm your host, Kevin, and on today's episode, we definitely did not have a bunch of technical issues. We're going to talk all about Ubisoft disbanding the Prince of Persia team, ? Netflix shuts down a AAA studio, and 51% of Xbox Series consoles are the Series X. Before we get to all that and more, got to introduce my co-host, JamPackSam. How are you, my friend?
What's up, man? I also definitely didn't have any kind of audio issues, and everything was fine today. It's a beautiful day to be talking about some Xbox news, and it's a big week. I mean, it's Black Ops week. You know, that's an exciting thing for a lot of the hardcore FPS players out there. Also, Lake House DLC week, which I know you'll be talking about. So a lot of good games. We're getting into the thick of it. But how are you, my friend?
I've had a rough day, to be honest with y'all. Took a look at the budget, all right, for living. I got the old lease renewal, and oh boy, is inflation hitting everyone hard apparently, but no one, So we got to make some tough choices next year, which mean might have to buy less games. Unfortunately, I'm not looking forward to that, but.
Yeah, life hits, man. I get it. We've all been there, and you just got to make those tough calls sometimes. But yeah, man, it's how things are going right now. It sucks.
Yeah, being an adult is hard, but we're gonna have some fun still. So this is Project XTalk. We are live every Thursday right here on youtube.com/Save the Game Media. Although this is a Wednesday episode because I'm busy tomorrow, and next week will also be next week will be a Tuesday episode actually because Sam's busy Wednesday and Thursday is Halloween in the US. So I'll be handing out candy. If you can't catch us live any of those days, we post every Friday morning on your favorite audio platform of choice. While you're over there, make sure to drop us that 5-star review. It does help us in the algorithm. If you want to support us even further, get earlier audio access to Save the Game Media content, exclusive bonus content, and more, head over to patreon.com/Save the Game Media. Choose the tier that's right for you, like our current Patreon supporters. So thank you to Fabulous Brianna, Brianna's mom, Brianna's brother, Lindsay, Nikolai at Night, Cypher Primus, Brendan Myers, Marcus O'Neill, Lillian, Mimi J, David Hotright, Dave Harp, the Xbox Expansion Pass, Alpaca Tom, Lee Navarro, Silkenet, Ellery Woods Parker III, Chad, Shelby Macy, and Rick Davis. Thank you all for your support. We appreciate each and every one of you. And we are closing in on Extra Life 2024. It is just over 1 week away. November 2nd at 10 a.m. Eastern time, we'll be kicking off our 25-hour live stream for charity, raising money for sick children. And we're giving away some awesome prizes to people that donate. So if you are interested, the link is down below in the show notes, in the description, whatever you're watching, listening on, it will be there. Click that, go to the donate button. $10, you are entered to win our Series S and 3 months of Game Pass Ultimate giveaway. That is our grand prize. But you just want to donate $5, every $5 you donate gets you entered to win all the other prizes we are giving away, including Astrobot, Dragon Age, so many more games, and maybe more to be announced still. So keep an eye on those social pages and the Extra Life page. But that is all I got. Why don't we jump into what have you been playing, Sam?
Yeah, man. I have been continuing to grind Diablo 4, and in our show notes, I said mindlessly. And I feel like I am the definition of that. And I put out a video on Sunday talking about how Diablo 4 is really good for casual players. And I would consider myself to be a casual player because every night for the past 2 weeks or so since Vessel of Hatred has come out, I'll go into the living room and my fiance's had some time, a couple of days to just kind of like grind it. Like she's double my levels. Like she's getting into the Paragon system. Like she's been going hard. And so she'll come in and like, hey, do you want to do insert name of like some random Diablo sounding event here, like Dark Citadel and or the Pit and or whatever the grind is of the night. And we're like, okay, sure. And so we'll get in there and just do that for a couple of hours. And so it is very much so. I don't really know what I'm doing. The plots are like, Diablo plots. You don't really have to pay attention to the quest, but they're sick. The visuals are cool. It's just such a fun time to just sit down and grind. So I'm like level 25 in the battle pass, I think, and then I've hit the Paragon level 49, I think, and then I'm on Torment 1. So like we're getting up in the difficulties as well. I've got a totally broken build because she's been farming me gear that she'll drop in my inventory. It's been great. It's really awesome. And so yeah, man, I've been having a good time with that. Now I don't know how much I'll be doing that more over the next week because Black Ops is coming out. Obviously, Game Pass drop, getting into the Call of Duty side of things, so I'm excited about that. But it'll definitely be a continual fall and winter game for me. I think I'm not leaving anytime soon.
Your fiance grinding you gear reminds me one of the first interactions I ever had in Diablo is Diablo 2. All right. I convinced my grandma to get us this game. We're playing, and I come in, and just there's this game been out for years at this point. So there's just people in town, and they're like, "Hey, you're new. You want some stuff?" I'm
Yeah.
like, "Yeah, sure." And they just drop me millions of gold and then a bunch of gear, and I'm like, "I can't use any of this." It was like crazy high stuff, and they just runs off. And I didn't understand this game, so I'm like playing. I'm going out. I die. And then it's like, oh, you have to go back to your body to get all your stuff. And I couldn't get back to my body. I tried
Dang.
over and over again. And my, like, what, 8-year-old self or whatever assumed that meant I lose everything I had. And I was very distraught over that. I was like, no, all my stuff.
That's devastating. Yeah, it kind of reminds me of the stories of Phil Spencer and being in Fallout 76, and then random Fallout 76 players either just gifting you stuff or dropping items at your feet or whatever when you join, just to be like a cool dude. I also want to shout out Silkina in the chat. Sam and his D4 sugar mommy, 100%. That's why we're getting married. That's what's happening. I need somebody to grind the good D4 gear for me. So we're just locking that in for the future iterations.
That's one of her vows, actually, when they're getting married. It's I promise to always get you the Diablo gear.
Yeah, it's in sickness and in health, in the pit, in the hell tide. That's how we're doing it.
Oh, we're in the pit, all right. Oh my god!
But what have you been playing, man? You've been I see a wide variety of games this week, and I've been seeing you playing Copycat. I'm very excited to hear about Copycat because that's one that I've not heard a lot about.
So I will touch on Metaphor first. Then we'll get to Copycat. So I have finished Metaphor Refantasio, or as you like to call it, Simile.
Yeah, Simile Refinaglio.
Yeah, Refinaglio. You know what? I actually saw a meme that I almost sent you. It was my favorite games this year are Metaphor and Simile, and it was Metaphor and then next to it like a dragon. I'm like, I get it.
That's good. I like that.
So I beat Metaphor. 46 hours it took me to roll credits. I did all the quests. I maxed all the bonds, did all the virtues. I did everything. And then I had like 15 days where I was like, I have nothing to do in this game. But they still make you there's no skip ahead to the final boss. It's like, you got to go pretend to do stuff for the social sim elements, which I didn't like that much. At night, I was just like, I'm going to bed every night. That's all I spent my night going to bed.
Yeah.
I will say I talked this game up a lot the last few weeks where I was like, oh, it's the best Atlas game. Might be my game of the year. Might be one of my favorite games of all time. Then the end game comes. And oh boy, Atlas, I don't know what you were thinking with some of these end game bosses.
Unfortunate.
These end game bosses have some of the biggest BS mechanics I have ever seen. And I know they're going to be hard. All right. Like there's 4 quests at the end there. Like these are probably the hardest fights in the game. And I'm like, okay, that's fine. Like, I'm on easy mode. This will be no problem. They were smacking me up and down. I was like, I'm on easy mode. You don't understand, though, like difficulty options. Okay. So then I tried for over an hour on one boss, and I was like, I'm going to drop it down to story. I'm a broken man. And then I proceeded to get smacked around more. I go, these bosses are nonsense.
That's crazy.
So I went and grinded a little bit, came back, whooped that boss. And then I was like, all right, I'm going to go kill his homies too, because they got to go to another place, kill his homies. And then they had even worse mechanics somehow where one hit kills. And I was like, but I grinded. All right. I put in the time. I'm on easy difficulty. I deserve this. I eventually did get through all of the nonsense. Had to change some builds around. Very frustrating. And I was like, okay, it's all done. I'm going to go do the final boss encounter. And the final boss has multiple forms. I will say, I won't say how many, but he has multiple forms, just like a JRPG boss. And there's this achievement for beating his one form without weakening them at all.
Okay.
And that is done by beating basically a boss rush gauntlet right before. And I was like, I'm not gonna do that. I'm done. I'm over it. I just did all this nonsense with this quest over here. No. You have to do that. Otherwise, this boss is literally impossible. He will take 16 turns in a row, wipe your whole party. You will not be able to do. You'll continually just revive, die, revive, die. It's impossible. I don't understand what they're thinking. Unless you grind a level 99 or whatever, there's no way to do it. So I had to reload my last save, which was before the final dungeon. An hour and a half I lost of
Oh
time.
God.
And then I had to go do the boss rush gauntlet. Then went and fought him. Still pretty annoying, but I won and rolled credits. So that is to just say, Atlas, I still think you made your best game, but damn, did you make it frustrating at the end? Very poorly paced, annoying mechanics. Don't enjoy.
Interesting. Yeah, I will say I'm still probably never going to play this game, but I saw a clip from Kind of Funny where Tim Geddes at Kind of Funny was talking about Metaphor, and he was like, "I'm really enjoying this game," and I feel like Tim and I don't overlap in terms of like taste every time, but he's like what I would consider to be like the not Metaphor guy. While like I see Metaphor coming, I'm like, oh, it's Kevin looking game. Kevin's probably gonna like that game, so maybe I'll give it a shot one day if it's on sale. You know, I was offered a review code, but now it'd be weird for me to go back and be like, can I get that? Maybe I can actually pick that up. And I also just don't have the time for it right now. But glad that you enjoyed it, even though it was a little rough there at the end.
Yeah. Well, listen, Kyle, my brother, for anyone listening, he apparently spent 2.5 hours on that final boss and then lost and gave up. And pretty, I think he's pretty discouraged right now. So I was like,
yeah,
gotta drop the difficulty, my guy. It's
I would imagine 2.5 hours. That's bringing back some old long flashbacks for me of trying that final boss for like 5 hours straight.
Yeah, they got in their SMT bag at the end here, Atlas. They forgot what game they were making. But Silken has a question in the chat. I thought they said that not all dungeons were doable in one run. They lied to you. They lied to you. There is one New Game Plus boss that you can, like, you have to do New Game Plus to fight this one boss, but you can do all the things in one run. Yeah, they straight up lied. But that's Metaphor. Still very good. I don't know if it's my game of the year based on that ending, but we'll see when it comes around in a few months, and I gotta finally make that decision. So let's talk about Copycat. So full disclosure, I have a review coming out tomorrow. It's a short review because it's a short game. I did get a code for this game from the developers. I think Spoonful of Wonder. So they're like, hey, you want to play this game? I'm like, yeah, sure. I needed a little palate cleanser from Metaphor. This is a game where you play as a cat, and anyone that's been listening, you know I love my cat games. All right, I blew through all the Cat Quest games this year. I played Gory, Cuddly Carnage. I like Stray, like cat games. And Sam, you and I were talking about cats just last week. All right,
we were.
You play as a cat that gets adopted from an animal shelter by an elderly woman named Olive. And at first, you're like, I don't want to be in this house. I'm a wildcat. I want to be like hunting. I'm a tiger essentially. But Olive's like, no, I'm gonna warm up to, I'm gonna make you love me. And she wins you over. And then something happens. And that's really all I could say about the story. I will say emotionally, absolutely devastating. This game will mess you you want to make sure you were in a good mental space to play this game. It gives you a warning. It's like this game touches on themes of like abandonment, suicide, like hard hitting topics, and they aren't portrayed in the ways that you would think. Like when I saw a message, I was like, oh, I think I know what's going to happen. No, I don't know what's going to happen because like things were happening. I beat it. It's about 2.5 hours long. It took me 3 sittings because I was very like, I don't know how much longer I could play this after like 30 minutes. Like, I need a break. I need to go like pick up my cat and like just have a good, very emotional game. So make sure you're in the right space for it. But it's not the best game to play. Like there's nothing here mechanically or gameplay wise that's like amazing. I wouldn't even say it's like a fun game to play. A lot of times you're just like running around looking for your next thing to interact with. They have some endless runner elements in there. And then they have a few little mini games where it's like you have to hit the buttons in a certain order in a certain time. So simple stuff, but the story, narrative, the themes going on here, I really did enjoy.
Nice. Yeah. I mean, I think that sometimes that's one of the best parts about the indie space, the indie scene, is that you don't have to have a game that's like super complex in terms of mechanics, but something that's impactful with the story. And I mean, you're talking about you got to make sure you're in a solid mental state before going into this. Who among us isn't in a solid mental state right now? There's nothing going on in the world that's distracting or stressful. I can definitely handle a sad cat game. I'm fine. We're great.
Yeah, I know. The good sir, shout out the good sir, listener. He was like, I was gonna play this game, and then I lost my cat of 20 years, so I'm not really like ready to. I was like, yeah, don't play this game.
Yeah, don't play that game.
Don't play this game. It's funny though, because they know what's going on with these cats. All right, you had one where you scratching the cat. You can like scratch things, so you're like scratching up the ottoman, playing with toilet paper. I'm like, all right, they know what cats are up to. They know what cats are up to. All right, last thing I want to talk about, the Lake House DLC for Alan Wake 2. I beat it. It's done. I have finished the last expansion. I have finished Alan Wake 2 entirely. I believe this is the last of it. And I like it. I don't love this expansion as much as Night Springs. I think Night Springs is a much more, well, it's more fan servicey, I think. I think I enjoyed playing it more. This one was promoted as leaning more into the horror elements, right? And there are some creepy parts to this game, don't get me wrong. But overall, it's kind of boring. You don't do all that much. Like there aren't that many enemies in the expansion. It's about 2.5 hours long, so not that long either. Pretty quick. So I did beat it in about 2 sittings. I like the story they're telling. Remedy continue to be masters of world building and lore and everything going on there. I just don't know that that's not really what I was expecting from the lake house. I kind of wanted a little more. It almost does feel like, yeah, we had this idea because you can play it as part of the main story. So I think it falls somewhere like when Saga first meets Estevez, you can then go, oh, I want to play the lake house mid game during your journey, and you'll just transition because the whole thing is premised as her telling you about, hey, this is what happened before we met up. All right. Yeah, it's okay. It's okay. It's not my favorite expansion. I'm excited for what it sets up, and that's all I will say.
Yeah. So the more that I have thought about this, and I've seen like Sam Lake posting on Instagram and stuff, he's kind of like, Sam Lake's kind of got this Kojima vibe to him on social media, especially, but also
he's my Kojima.
Yeah, like that's kind of the way that I see him as well. And so the more that I've seen it, the more that I've been interested in it. And going back, I mean, the deluxe edition upgrade's $20, and $20, I don't want to undermine how important that is for some people to use in other ways. But also $20 is kind of like one of those, yeah, sure, why not? 2 expansions, why not? So I think that this is going to be one that I get through sooner rather than later. This might be like my winter game. I think I might have said that last week as well. Like I'll pick it up after I kind of get out of my Call of Duty Diablo phase and I'm back on like story stuff. But I'm interested to play Night Springs and the Lake House and kind of just rip it off like a Band-Aid the way that I was kind of planning to before. I do want to kind of transition into a conversation around this before we get into the library to the main topics of today's show. Sorry, it's labeled as the library in our show notes.
Yeah, it's a Halo reference.
Yeah, perfect. So I was looking at the Vault edition of Black Ops 6. Are you familiar with the Vault edition?
I am. That's when you get early access, right?
So there is no early access.
There's no early access this time. Okay, never mind. I'm not familiar.
It's like early access to the beta, and then there were some cosmetics, and then you get like some gumballs and the zombie stuff. There's like an upgrade thing that's normally a microtransaction if you wanted to be. You can also earn them, that kind of thing. And so that's $30, and it's kind of like the Forza upgrade or the other upgrade for any of the other games that have come out on Game Pass that are like, hey, you can get the deluxe edition, get $30 out of you. So I was thinking about doing that because I'm like, I'm getting Black Ops for free. I want to vote with my wallet. Yeah, I like seeing Black Ops in Game Pass. Give me that. But then I'm like, $30 could give me an indie game on sale and the Alan Wake Deluxe Edition, or it could give me like 6 indie games. Alien Isolation, rapping Alien today on today's show, is $10 right now on sale. I could get Alien Isolation and Alan Wake Deluxe Edition, and I'm kind of like struggling with the whole like, do I wave my flag of like, hey, thanks for putting Call of Duty on Game Pass, here's my $30 for the Vault Edition, or do I actually get something that like I probably would enjoy more in playing Alien Isolation and Alan Wake? So I'm sure I don't know if other people struggle with that. I just wanted to bring it up on the show. Thought it was an interesting conversation and thought piece.
I think, well, me personally, obviously, I'm biased because I'm not a Call of Duty guy.
Right.
I love Alan Wake. I think you go with whatever gets you the most value for your money, though. Are you gonna question? I think you need to preface this. When you play on Game Pass Call of Duty, are you gonna buy microtransactions?
See, like that's the thing. The Vault Edition, I forgot to also mention, includes the Black Cell pass, the first battle pass. So I'll probably buy a battle pass, at least the first one with Black Ops, just because I like grinding stuff. In terms of like the store skins and stuff, no, I'm not. I don't care. I never see how I look anyway. Like it doesn't really matter to me that much.
Game, yeah.
Yeah, so it's like just I can earn some skins and they're fine. So I probably won't buy that many. No.
Okay. Maybe is it cheaper than just to buy the battle pass without?
It
the
is
vault?
cheaper just to buy the battle pack. That'll just be $10.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Why don't you save $20?
Yeah, that's probably what I'm going to do. I'm just trying to. I don't know.
I mean, you won't save it; it'll go somewhere else. But
it'll go somewhere else. You can stretch it more. I feel like I always think about like and this is probably not the right way to think about it, but it's like the vote with your wallet thing. And I actually have like taken that to heart around like casting my vote for like more Call of Duty on Game Pass because I'm very curious about these numbers here in a couple of months of like how this affects the bottom line for Xbox. But yeah, I'll probably either save that money and put it towards Alan Wake or Alien or something like that, and instead of getting the just the $30 Vault Edition upgrade.
Ghostly Guide says you'll see the skins in all those kill cams you'll be getting.
The ones where I'm dying, because then they will be very visible. Yeah, you're right. You're absolutely right.
I think it's so. I didn't put this in the show notes, but did you see that article? I forget. Was it Forbes that put it out, or about like how Black Ops 6 is kind of like the last gambit for
I did see that
for Game Pass, right? And then I was like, why are we phrasing it like that? Because like I don't think Game Pass survival hinges on Call of Duty.
I think that it's a really interesting conversation to have. I've been thinking about this a lot. So going back to the article, the idea is that this is kind of like the make or break for Game Pass's strategy overall for Xbox, because they're like, we need to get the big hitters in here, and then that will drive subscriptions that will then bring the new revenue model full circle, and it'll be kind of like the core of what Xbox is. So that's the idea there. The other thing that I think about are those stats that they shared during the FTC trial last year of like X% of Call of Duty sales are on Xbox, and then like the overwhelming majority was on other platforms. So I would assume that's probably how Xbox is looking at it, where there is this kind of like cost to test, where they are potentially going to maybe lose out on some money they could have made if they had just charged for the game on Xbox, but at the benefit of actually learning if it's going to work. So I'll be very curious how those numbers work out. I agree that I don't think this is like going to be one of those situations of, oh, Xbox didn't, or Call of Duty didn't drive new Game Pass subscribers, we're shutting down Game Pass, or we're changing the subscriptions again, or something like that. But I do think it's going to be interesting to see if this is like the thing that drives a 25% increase or something like that for the month of November. That'll be interesting.
Yeah, I would love them to release numbers in the next few months so we can actually see that impact. But like the way I look at it is that price increase from 18 to $20, like that is how they're making up for some of the lost profit that they would get from Call of Duty going into Game Pass versus just selling it. So for me, I'm like, okay, I think they're kind of already counting on maybe not having a giant boom, but then you look at the marketing, and I don't know how much you've seen. I've seen quite a few ads at this point. They do not market that this is coming to Game Pass, and I don't know if that is FTC. That is like they're still not allowed to due to like PlayStation deals, or whatever. But honestly, this Call of Duty, I thought was going to be like, hey, it's on Game Pass, like screaming everywhere from the rooftops, and they're just like, play Call of Duty this Friday, and I'm like, you're not even going to say like on Xbox or like anything like that. You're literally just saying a Call of Duty Friday.
Yeah, I do think it's really interesting that they aren't calling out Game Pass too heavily. And I think that is, like you were kind of insinuating, a reflection of how they think about Game Pass and the overall structure of it just being another option. I do appreciate the fact that it's about the game and not about the service. I think that's something that you can kind of tell by the way that Sarah Bond and Aaron Greenberg and everybody talk about it on social, of giving players options. They even talked about it with the new headset refresh of like another option for players' audio. Cool, I guess. Weird way to phrase it, but yeah, it's a very interesting approach, and one that I don't hate, but one that I do think is going to kind of leave some Game Pass money on the table at the potential benefit of like people just buying it the way they normally would and spending $70 to get the new Call of Duty. So either way, this is the most hyped I've been about a Call of Duty in a while, because the customization is back to being normal and understandable. The prestige system is back. The camo grind is back to a normal level. Like, it feels like it's going to be more digestible, and I'm excited about that.
What if they're playing 4D chess and they're intentionally like, don't promote it on Game Pass. We want people just to buy it. It'll be there for those that know.
I really think that could be the strategy here, because it's like, I mean, why would you yeah, you want to grow Game Pass, but also there's like literally millions of people ready to give you $70 without even blinking an eye. And also, as a side note, it's clear they are making changes that we've talked about in recent episodes that are trying to drive revenue and like keep it locked in. Like, they took away the cheap trial of Game Pass for 1 month ahead of Black Ops, where you can't just like do a quick, basically a freebie trial, like $5 a month or whatever it was. They nixed that, and they were like, hey, if you want to play Call of Duty, you need to like at least pay us $15 to get through the campaign. So that's kind of where they're at. But yeah, it's going to be a really interesting one to see kind of how that changes the numbers. I don't even know if we'll ever see the numbers from this, or if it'll just be leaked in some data breach in the future.
I think they release numbers if it's good. If we don't hear anything, I'm gonna assume it didn't change all that much.
Yeah. If we hear Satya Nadella talking about it, that's when you know that that was a banger of a choice they made. So we'll see if he does that towards the beginning of the year next year.
I see the other Sam in the chat says, if subs don't grow in a major way with Black Ops 6, I do expect another price increase within 12 months. If they raise the price again, they're gonna lose. They're gonna start losing, so they're gonna have to announce, "Hey, we lost this many subs because we're just raising the prices constantly."
Yeah, it's going to be. We'll save that conversation for if it does happen. But they have a banger lineup that I think that we've been saying it for 3 years, but everything's finally coming together for Xbox in a pretty big way.
2025 is Xbox's year.
Yeah, 2025 is Xbox's year, but it's like if the games hit, they potentially have that value proposition. But even then, we go back to that conversation we had a couple of weeks ago of like, I'm just going to buy the couple of games that I'm going to spend the most time with and probably either break even or save money in the long run. So it's weird, like you're teetering on the edge of too much money already.
So when I was doing, as I mentioned, the budgeting for next year, I was like, all right, this is how much I can spend on games next year. And some of that factor was like, okay, right now, Game Pass Ultimate, I have till the end of April, I think. After that, it's like, okay, I don't need to buy the games. I can sub for 1 month, play it, sub for 1 month, or like let them accumulate, play multiple at one.
Right.
Like, I'm gonna start treating it kind of like that Disney Plus subscription I do, where once Daredevil's out, I'll catch up on Agatha, I'll catch up on Daredevil, but I'm not paying, watching week to week. Y'all wasting your money.
Right. Yeah, I kind of went through and I did an audit of stuff where like I use my mom's Netflix, but now I got kicked off because of the IP thing that they implemented. So like, as much as I love Love Is Blind, I'm sorry, brother, we're not going to be doing that. Not happening. So like, we don't have that. I just started using my fiance's Amazon Prime. So like, I just canceled my Amazon Prime because I'm not going to use 2 Amazon Primes. Why do I need both of these things? And we never really watch football or anything. So we're like, forget about the NFL, anything we've got there. So like, I'm just down to where Game Pass is really the only subscription that I'm paying for on a regular basis. And I'll keep that going because it's like, like isn't it $16.99 per month right now? Is that where we're at?
$19.99
Ultimate right now?
Yeah, $19.99.
Is Ultimate $20 a month?
Yeah.
Hold on. Yeah. Xbox
standard is $14.99.
I gotta see this. It is $20 a month. Dang, that's crazy. All right, well, backing up, it's like one banger trip to Steak and Shake, where it's like that's kind of where we're at. And I'm like, all right, one fast food dinner that has like, all the accoutrements. I'll keep paying for that. But $20 a month, Jesus. All right, well, I'm out of touch.
Shout out Amazon Prime. If only we did an Xbox show where we talked
Yeah,
about this.
but it's weird because like Game Pass Ultimate, $16.99 1 month on Target.com. I'm very confused.
Oh, maybe they're on sale.
I don't know. Either
Maybe they're
way,
trying to get rid of old cards. I don't know. I'm really banking on like some holiday sales and maybe trying to like just stack. But
I'll be
we'll
shocked.
see. We'll see.
Yeah. Yeah, I think anytime you charge more than $20 a month, you're playing with fire there. I don't know about that one.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. That's why I'm never canceling PlayStation Plus, because I got grandfathered in at the premium tier, which is like
Ooh,
180 a year. But I got grandfathered in at $80 a year. So when
that's
I was like, I, I'm not canceling that no matter what until they email me and say, "Hey, you got to pay normal price." Then I'll be like, I ain't doing that. I'm out. Till then,
uh
PlayStation, you get my money. All right, Sam. Why don't we jump into the news? Pretty light news week, but we got some things to talk about. So, story number one: has Ubisoft disbanded the Prince of Persia Lost Crown team? That's according to a French media outlet, Origami. Ubisoft apparently has disbanded the team behind Prince of Persia Lost Crown despite overwhelming critical success. Reportedly, the game failed to meet Ubisoft sales expectations, and a sequel was pitched but not greenlit. I did see some reports coming out today that maybe some staff were put on other projects such as Beyond Good and Evil 2. I think I saw apparently a Rayman remake is in the works, and some of them went over there. So what are you thinking, Sam? I think you played this game, didn't you?
I did play this game. Yeah, I was given a review code by Ubisoft, and I played through it in January at launch. It was good. I'm not like the biggest Metroidvania guy, so my SKUs are
Me
probably
either. Me either.
yeah,
Yeah.
like I'm not super high on them, but it was a good game. It was good for what it was. I thought it had interesting powers and concepts and whatnot. I thought it was a well-made Prince of Persia game. But this was a wild story to me because in my mind, this was like a win for Ubisoft. Now, in terms of like commercial success, was it a standout Far Cry level hit? No, but like that's not what it was meant to do, right? It was meant to be kind of one of these smaller indie level games where you are kind of not playing with the biggest budget, but you're trying to make a positive impact on your image in my mind. Like that's what this game was meant to do for Ubisoft. And so it getting like anywhere between an 8 and a 10 is kind of where it was landing on the scales. That's a big win compared to stuff that we've seen with like Star Wars Outlaws, which again, I gave it a 7, generally a 7 by most people in terms of review scores. But to see that disbanded and then have a team of talented developers that worked on a Metroidvania of this scale sent to projects like Beyond Good and Evil 2, dude, why are we just kill the people? Why are we doing that? Why are we still developing Beyond Good and Evil 2? You know, like the people that cared about Beyond Good and Evil 2,
Are
that's like
dead.
me. I mean, I don't even, I wasn't even gonna go that far, but it's like it would be like me being like, why isn't PlayStation making a new Jack and Daxter? Brother, the industry has evolved. We don't that's not what the industry is calling for right now. I don't think that anybody's looking for that. And so like a new Beyond Good and Evil, what are you doing here, man? Like, are we still doing the Joseph Gordon-Levitt crowdfunded art thing too, or is that dead on arrival? That game just needs to just pull the plug on that, man. I don't know what's going on, but it's disappointing to me to see something that was tangibly a success then be kind of dismantled allegedly and then have these people distributed to other projects that are just going to be kind of like presumably stuck in some kind of development purgatory for a little while. It's weird.
Yeah, this is a disappointing story to read, and it kind of feels like Hi-Fi Rush all over again to me, where a game comes out critically acclaimed and then says, "Oh, it fails to meet expectations or didn't make enough money, so we're gonna disband the team." And obviously, that was a whole studio versus just one internal team. But I really do think that like having diversity in your portfolio, having critically acclaimed games and not giving up on them after one thing if they don't meet sales expectation, it really needs to go away. Like Ubisoft can take a hit. It's not like this game sold nothing. It sold hundreds of thousands of copies. It's on sale all the time now, so I assume it'll have a long life as long as most Ubisoft games do. Like most Ubisoft games, and that this is completely of their own doing, by the way. Most of the sales come months later. Star Wars Outlaws, what, 1 million sales? I guarantee you they're going to sell way more once you get that Black Friday sale, right? Like, people are waiting. They've been trained. They know Ubisoft games go on sale very quickly. So I really think it's kind of harsh on the team to blame them for this, when I want to point out Metroidvania, kind of a niche genre. Metro, everyone's, oh, Metroid, yes. Metroid is like the biggest Metroidvania, and it's like, oh, 3 million copies is a huge success. Like, that's the best selling Metroid game. So this isn't a huge genre. Prince of Persia, an all but dead IP that you just randomly brought back with a different art style, different like gameplay mechanics than the previous Prince of Persia trilogy. I said this, I didn't buy this game because Metroidvanias most of the time are not for me. But if you'd given me a Prince of Persia game in that 3D style from that like GameCube, Xbox era, whereas I would have been in on that.
Yeah, well, there's the Sands of Time remake, which I think was 2026. Am I thinking
it
about
definitely
that?
was. Yeah,
which was supposed to release a couple of years ago, but then they dropped that gameplay trailer and they were like, "This looks like Play-Doh garbage," and then they just totally restarted development of it. I also feel like these games have been compared along the way, so I also want to call out the Tales of Kinzarazao news of the entire studio being put on notice for redundancy, according to PC Gamer here, 6 months after the release, as the studio scrambles to find funding. So those games are kind of like, I think that Tales of Kinzarazao got cannibalized by Prince of Persia just because of the art style and the vibe and being a Metroidvania. But it's just disappointing to see both of these games, like one that seems to have cannibalized the other, and both are kind of disbanding their teams at the same time in different ways. Like, obviously, Tales of Kinzara team could find funding, but how do you win? Like, what's the moniker for success of, like, hey, you made, like you said, a dead IP come back to life with a game that got 8s and 9s and 10s out of 10s from people online. It sold 1 million copies. By the way, you're working on Beyond Good and Evil 2 starting next week. Like, what do you have to do to come out on top? I don't know what you have to hit to like keep your win streak going. It just doesn't make sense to me. What's the bar you've got to hit inside of Ubisoft?
The chat is coming at you for Beyond Good and Evil 2 takes, by the way.
Are they?
They care. They care.
I mean, I've had my run in with Silken It on Threads today of he still believes Beyond Good and Evil 2 comes out, and I was like, yeah, Silk Song's dropping at the Game Awards, so we're just gonna keep living in our world of delusion.
What if it did though? What if it?
What if it did? What if it did?
What if Beyond Good and Evil 2 drops to the Game Awards? No.
Rip the Band-Aid off, man. Pull a Skull and Bones. Just let that thing set sail. Let it go.
That great, perfect example. How is Skull and Bones allowed to live? This game isn't.
I mean, that's the thing that I was talking. I've had this conversation on Threads with a couple of people today. Of Ubisoft has this weird little niche, like they do a couple of things really well. I know that somebody on Threads that I follow called out Child of Light. Like they have a good indie in that. I think that like Rogue Prince of Persia, good starting point for an early access Prince of Persia game. Obviously, The Lost Crown, like we've been talking about. I think that we don't talk enough about Rainbow Six Siege, which is not an indie or small game, but like it still has a regular user base and a fan base that's keeping that game going. What are we doing with like Skull and Bones and Beyond Good and Evil? I love it, but like X Defiant, what are we doing over there? That you have too many things, you have too many pots cooking at one time. Just do a couple of things really, really well, and I feel like they have a lot of potential in the indie space that just goes completely unrecognized because they're focused on trying to find the next big thing. They can't even find the win that's right there in front of them.
Well, that's because they have 20,000 employees and they always have to be making Assassin's Creed and just pumping out. I don't really get their strategy at the moment. Like what I think we talked about this a few weeks ago when we were talking about Tencent, but they really need downsizing, focus on projects, trim those budgets. You don't need 200-hour-long games. Like it's not what people want. I know it's what you think people want. You can give them 50, 60-hour RPGs if that's what they're looking for, your fan base. That's good enough for them, I think. I don't think they need more than that. You don't need to say, hey, we got 2 years of content coming for this latest Assassin's Creed and it adds an additional 100 hours. Like we need to stop, Ubisoft. We need to stop.
Yeah, they've definitely got to change some stuff. And I mean, like you see the stock price tanking and whatnot. And I know that's like a topic for another show, but I don't know how you write this ship without making drastic changes around game design and philosophy and the scope of the projects you're working on, and really get down to doing a couple of things really well. And by a couple of things, I don't mean 10 Assassin's Creed games in the next 5 years. Like, that's not what I mean. I mean, like, other stuff.
Well, rumor is we're getting Shadows in February and then Black Flag remake at the end of next year
Now
too.
leave Black Flag remake out of this, Kevin. Don't bring that in here. Okay. I don't want to fight you right now. I do want that.
Who needs Black Flag when you got Like a Dragon, Yakuza Pirate in Hawaii?
I
All right.
specifically need Black Flag remake when you have Yakuza Pirates in Hawaii. Okay. Black Flag is a really good game, and I want shiny RTX ray traced water. Thank you very much.
I will say, the rumors of putting the team on a Rayman remake. I'm here for it. Rayman, my boy, last good Ubisoft game, as I said for years now. 2013's Rayman Legends. All
There's
right.
no way that game is 11 years old. Are you kidding
Yeah,
me?
it is.
That is wild, man.
I had I played that because I had a coupon from GameStop. Like I had a $5 monthly coupon I had to
Oh, yeah.
use. The game was $3, and I was like, just keep it. Like, don't even here you go. I'm taking the game. You can have this.
That's solid. I did that one time. I forget what game it was that I picked up. It was like some racing game. I have it on my shelf over there, but it was like a physical copy of something. And I was like, hey, I have a $5 coupon. Can I just take this? They're like, yeah, just walk out with it. I'll just take it out of the inventory. It's great.
Nissa in the chat says there's Cat Quest 3. You play as pirate there. Exactly. You
That's
have
fair.
you have a ship. You have ship combat. You can fight a rubber duck. Level 99. He can smite you from the heavens. All right.
Ooh.
So
all right. Now we're talking.
Can Black Flag do that? I don't think so.
That cannot. No.
All right. Let's move on. Story number 2. Netflix is shutting down its AAA game studio. So Netflix has shuttered its AAA game studio, which was comprised of a number of high-profile game developers, including former Overwatch executive producer Chaco Son, Rafael Grassetti, who was the art director on God of War, and most relevant to this show, was led by former Halo creative director Joseph Staten. Netflix has refused to comment on why the studio has been closed. But Sam, is Netflix getting out of the game-making business?
I think the wildest thing about this story is that I can't remember where I was reading, but it was that Netflix allegedly had to focus on the PC gaming space. Why? Why would I mean? I get it from like a conceptual point of view where we're talking about technology like Amazon Cloud Gaming and Amazon Luna. Like if you want to enable in the future better streaming technology, and Netflix was kind of like poising itself to take advantage of that cloud gaming leap. That's kind of where I thought they were going with it, of like, for instance, I know I believe it's Amazon that's doing that. But if you had like a secret level-esque project and you had a God of War animated series that came out, and you were like at the very end of the series, hey, you can play God of War now on Netflix Cloud Gaming. That makes a ton of sense. I thought that was where they were going with it. Like if, let's say, there was an actually good Halo show that Netflix picked up, you could immediately jump into the next Halo, or, a sci-fi show, whatever it might be. Defiance making a comeback. That's a throwback for the Xbox 360 players out there. But anything like that, I thought that's kind of where they were going with it. And then it just turns out that they had a whole lot of crowdfunding money, or I should say money, funneling in from other various venture capitalists. And they were like, you know what? The guy that made Halo and the art director for God of War, and we're going to make something cool. And then somebody came in and they were like, no, you're not. And then they just totally pulled the rug out. So now it sounds like they're just doubling down on mobile games, which is probably where they're going to make the most money. So it probably is the right thing.
Yeah, so this studio didn't make a game. They didn't show a game. Like there was nothing really coming from this studio except high budget, high talent. Like I don't really know how to feel because I'm not upset because they didn't have anything. Like I'm upset people lost their jobs, of course. That's unfortunately commonplace in the game industry. But I saw a lot of people being like, "Oh, should Joseph Staten come back to Halo Studios now?" And I was like, "No, you should. Love you, Joseph. Thank you for everything you did for Halo, but we're moving on. We need new directions. We don't need to bring people back and then try to redo what has been done already." I think leaning into mobile gaming is great because I don't know why they would try to make a AAA game to put on Netflix. Like, who is going to Netflix before that. Like, hey, I'm really like, I just want to watch Stranger Things. I want to watch Love is Blind. Oh, but also I would really love a $400 million AAA game. Can you provide that as well? Like, I don't think there's much overlap in those two bases. I do see an overlap where, hey, I have Netflix on my phone. I'm watching it like on my lunch break. Oh, they have a little game tabs here. I can play some mobile game. Like that makes way more sense to me than sitting at your TV and being like, oh my God, you see the realistic graphics on it? Like who's doing that when they're booting up Netflix?
Right. Yeah. I mean, I kind of see the vision of like if they were to become a publisher where they just take the Netflix element out of it and like let's say they make an Alan Wake style Stranger Things game. Like, okay, I kind of see the vision
Right.
with that. Like that sounds neat. But then you think about like the actual utility of what they probably want to do of like, hey, why are people using the app whenever we're paying all this money to make these games? And that's probably where they were coming from. In regards to Joseph Staten coming back to Halo, we got to rip this band-aid off. We need a new Halo Studios. It's time to like redefine what this franchise is, and that's going to take an entirely new team. So like as much as I respect and appreciate what Halo was and is today and the work that's been done to get it to the point that we're at right now, we gotta get some new leadership in there and some new talent. So best of luck to you where you land up. And I have no doubt that Severance was fat. That was a fat
he's
Severance.
doing just fine, guys. Like he's probably a millionaire. Like he has made so much money on Halo.
Dude, obviously I never want to assume anybody's financial position, but like if you were one of the founding people that like started Halo effectively, you guided it through so many years of development. You worked at Bungie whenever Destiny dropped, like prime heyday Destiny. Then you got a sign-on bonus probably to come back to 343, and then you went to Netflix. I got enough money, dude. I'm retiring. I'm going to Maui. You can find me there with my energy sword and Halo helmet on, chilling on the beach. Like that's what my life is going to be like from now on. I'm not doing anything else.
I see Clint in the chat says, what about that quadruple A Rebel Moon game?
Is that still happening, or did it get canceled?
I just tried to Google this Rebel Moon game. There's rebelmoongame.com. It comes from Netflix. It says it's an online co-op action game called Rebel Moon Bloodline. This is definitely not quad A. This join the beta. This looks like a action RPG.
I remember Zack Snyder coming out on stage, and I think either the Game Awards or Summer Game Fest 2 years ago, and he was like, "Rebel Moon game coming soon, along with the movies." And then Rebel Moon just sucked. And then I googled it, and there's a lawsuit over a canceled tabletop role playing game. We do not need that. No, thank you. I'm good.
So Bloodline is a mobile game, and it came out last month. And the fact that I've heard nobody talk about it should tell you all you need to know.
Yeah, I'm looking at the trailer on Netflix. Currently has there's no way this is the real account, right? No, there's no way that's a real account.
Who's to say at this point?
Who knows? Super Evil. I feel like I've heard this name before. Super Evil Megacorp.
Yeah, that's the company that made. That's who announced the game partnership.
They have the trailer has 728 views. Do not believe, my friend. That's a banger. That's unfortunate. All right. Rebel Moon's not great. It's a very good trash sci-fi TV that's completely forgettable.
Listen, if Luke Lore is listening, Luke, I know he's your guy, but Zack Snyder has never made a good movie. I want that to be known.
I'm gonna let you fight that fight yourself because it wasn't he. Am I imagining he's the 300 guy, right?
Oh wait, did he make 300? I might have to retract that statement then. Let's see. Zack Snyder.
He made 3. Let's see. Hold on. 300. Yeah, action film directed by Zack Snyder. 300 is okay. So 300, one of the best movies in the action realm ever made.
Great. 300 is fantastic. Yes.
Yeah. Now 300, Rise of an Empire, the follow up to that, not as great. Not a great,
that existed.
Yeah, not a great movie there. I remember watching that in 9th grade, did not like it. But the original 300, rented that from Blockbuster on DVD. Killer time as a kid. Really enjoyed that. Had to look away at certain points whenever we were climbing up the mountain to get the blessing from the Oracle. But nonetheless, we really enjoyed the movie.
So let's just take a little dive here. Dawn of the Dead, never seen it. 300, good movie. Watchmen, an okay movie.
I've heard good things.
Legends of the Guardians, the Owls of Ga'Hoole. I'm not even going to justify that one. Sucker Punch. Nope. Man of Steel. All right. Superman is boring. All
You're
right.
blowing
And this
Sucker
movie's
Punch a
also
little too
boring.
fast. That's got a hardcore fan base to it.
Why?
It's got a hardcore. I'm just telling you, it's got a hardcore fan base to it.
Never saw the 300 sequel. Batman versus Superman: Dawn of Justice. Horrible movie. Horrible movie. I hate it. Wonder Woman. Don't like it. Justice League almost walked out. Genuinely an offense to me as a superhero fan. Aquaman. Horrible movie. Wonder Woman 1984. Horrible movie. Zack Snyder's Justice League somehow worse than the original and longer.
Was longer.
The Suicide Squad. He was an executive producer on. I'm not gonna let you take credit for James Gunn's work. All right,
that's fair.
Let's and then Rebel Moon. What are you doing?
Did you gloss over Army of the Dead?
I don't know what that is. I
That's
saw
that
Army
Netflix
of Thieves as
Casino.
well.
Yeah. So there's that like casino movie with Dave Bautista where they go to Vegas and there's like a giant zombie outbreak. It's kind of like a Dead Rising movie if you wanted to like compare to that, where they're like robbing a vault. Not bad, really not bad. It is Zack Snyder though. Like it is just action packed slow motion a lot of the time. So
I will edit my previous statement. All right, Zack Snyder has made one great movie. Maybe a few okay movies, mostly bad movies.
I think that's fair. That's a fair assessment.
Thank you. All right. Netflix. I don't know. We don't need games from you.
Yeah, we're good.
That's where I'm at. All right. Let's talk about the last news story. Xbox Series X consoles have surpassed Xbox Series S in total lifetime sales. So this comes from Matt Piscatella at Circana. Apparently, Xbox Series X now accounts for 51% of all Xbox consoles sold this generation, meaning that the Xbox Series S is presumably at 49%. That narrative is different than what many had assumed by this generation.
I wrote this one. I'll take credit for that. I wrote this story. Sorry.
No, it's because when I write, it's like, oh, how would I say this?
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. I appreciate the writing credit here. Many assumed the Xbox Series S had outsold the X due to frequent holiday sales and the affordable price point, me included. I think I've said many times on the show, most of them are Xbox Series S.
Yeah, I mean, I've kind of been singing the same song, and I think a lot of people have, because the Xbox Series S is, I mean, I've seen it down as low as like, I think I saw it at 170, 160 a couple of Black Fridays ago.
Lower than that at Costco if you like last holiday.
Yeah, like it's crazy how low these things go. So you just assume that more people have picked that up. But now, I mean, Matt Piscatella is a really reliable source for data in terms of sales figures and whatnot. So seeing him talk about 51% of consoles sold are the Series X. I mean, number one, it's closer to half and half. So that doesn't really give Microsoft any actionable data to plan the future of their console generations of like, you know, if the Xbox Series X had sold 75% of the consoles for the entire generation, then you're like, all right, we need to go all in on more powerful hardware. But clearly people don't care about power that much. They want that affordability or the portability or whatever the Xbox Series S has for them. But I thought it was super interesting to see that split be so even right down the middle of even the digital versus physical element of it as well, because the digital Series X literally just came out, so that's not really even a factor at this point.
Yeah, I will say it's interesting that the half of Xbox users, because S doesn't have a disk drive, are all digital users. Like we know that the game sales have, even on the people that have the X, I think it's like 90% of Xbox sales are digital, something like that. It's a very high statistic. So it is interesting as we continue Xbox clearly pushing digital. Their user base seems to be embracing that. We see even on the other side, PlayStation, you know, you have to buy the disc drive separately. I did see some numbers that come out. It was like 80% of US PlayStation sales are like the disc version. And I was like, yeah, but that's because they made more disc versions. Like I don't understand how that works when you're saying, well, the majority are the disc version, so people want them. Like, no, that's what was available. Those cost more, so they made more of them, so they can make more money.
Yeah, it says that 18% of total life-to-date unit sales of PS5 hardware were the digital console, and
they didn't make any.
Well, it also factors in like that generation two, where they just added on the attachment, which there is a bundle that comes with the version with
Mhm.
the attachment for the disk drive, but also the non-attachment, which it's been out long enough to where I think that's factoring in here. But yeah, I think that anybody who thinks that digital is in the future, myself included, like I have a giant wall of physical games over here, we're lying to ourselves. Like digital is the way that it's going to go. The subscriptions are coming. The licenses with Steam have been in the news recently about how you don't really own like the game itself. You have a license for the game, and
Buy
you know
button, right? Or whatever.
yeah, like if you buy something on Steam now, there's a disclaimer that talks about what you actually own. And I've gone back and forth with a couple of people online about what that actually means. But ultimately, like in the distant future, let's say Xbox or PlayStation or Steam shut down, and there isn't a good way to offboard your licenses to another platform. Yeah, you own the license to something on a dead platform, right? Like if you have a Blockbuster lifetime membership card, it's not going to do you any good. That's effectively
Mhm.
what a license is on a dead storefront. Um, so we're getting closer and closer to this future of like nobody really owns anything in perpetuity, and the physical media side is just going to kind of go the way of the road. So I'll be interested to see how companies continue to evolve, do kind of what Xbox is doing, but even they need to do it on a larger scale of ensuring the games are preserved, your accounts are saved, like you own at least the licenses to the stuff that you will always be able to access even after the companies are gone. Because I think that's a really important thing that a lot of people aren't really thinking that far ahead about right now.
Well, I think that's because if Xbox is gone or PlayStation is gone, that most likely means Sony is gone or like something happened to Microsoft. Like Microsoft has made some catastrophic move. Like it would take a lot for me to feel like those companies would just go away at this
Oh
point.
yeah. Yeah, I just think about the like, the end of every, like the worst case scenario of, let's
Hmm.
just say like something catastrophic absolutely happens, like, the stock tanks and Microsoft shuts down the entire Xbox division. I'm sure there's some obligation that Microsoft still exists and they have to keep it going, but again, like I don't know. I always think about the what if with the whole
Hmm.
thing.
Do you expect next gen consoles to launch with a disk drive
Ah, I think there's going to be a disk drive option. I think it's going to be like what PlayStation has, where the
attachment? Me
Xbox will
too.
be able to have some kind of
Yeah.
attachment that clips onto the side, or, just a USB. Honestly, I think that Xbox should go the route of just making something look as sleek as possible, like the all digital Series X,
Hmm.
and just have a USB slot or like a
Like they did with the 360 for movies or right?
yeah,
What
like the
was it? The
DVD player
DVD
thing.
player, just have that. Like, I don't care if it
Yeah.
sits next to it, just pop your disc, like, that's
Because
good
I
to me.
mean, the reality of the situation is that this is going to be one of those things where you launch the console needs to look and run and feel like it's a complete package right out of the box, and then the minority of people are going to be the ones that want to buy physical media. I mean, I'll tell you right now, I'm all in on digital next generation going forward. Like, I'll keep my Series X around to play the games that I bought physically this generation, but I'm not going to keep trying to like hold the fort down and try to like prevent the inevitable here, because I still want to be able to play these things in 30
Mhm.
years, and I don't want to have a Series X to play these games. So I've seen some talk of people online about how they should like extend if you buy a physical game, you get the digital license as well. But there's no way that works with the used game market and the way that things work today. So it's like that's not really a solution. So I'm all in on digital from this point on after this generation.
Yeah, I think I saw Jez Corden put an article up about that, and I was like, I don't think I personally agree with that because, like, it's probably a one-time use thing. Like, you couldn't give it to a friend, you couldn't resell it, so like it kind of defeats the purpose of having a physical disc in my mind.
Well, it would probably end up being the same thing that happened with EA games back in the day, where like if you wanted to play multiplayer games for a used copy of the game, you would have to buy the $10 multiplayer pass again because you
Mass
had to get
Effect
the
3,
little.
baby.
Yeah, because I,
And
I remember they were back in those, and so there would have to be this additional thing to get money out of the used game market. And in a world where GameStop is admittedly coming back around thanks to Pokemon cards and like the retro market, but like in a world where they're not really that used game market for modern games anymore, I don't even see that working out that well. So there's not really I agree, there's no real solution there either.
yeah, yeah, and I wonder how that would affect like people with multiple console, like the game sharing setup
Yeah.
that people have set. Because like, if one person buys a disc and then you get digital license, does that digital license count for all consoles you're profiles on, or like it would make things complicated. I think the system we have right now is fine. Shout out Luke Lore in the chat. Luke, we were talking about you a little while ago. You definitely want to go listen to that segment.
Yeah, we're talking about how great Zack Snyder was.
Yeah, love him. Great guy. All right, Sam, let's get into some listener questions to round out the episode. Ghostly Guides writes in, says, it's almost Halloween. What horror game should people be playing?
Ooh, what horror game should people be playing? Well, there is Phasmophobia is coming out on Xbox if you're looking for something new. You can do what I'm doing. I mentioned it earlier in the show. I'm probably going to pick up Alien Isolation. 10 years on, never played it. That's my bad on that one. Sorry about that. Probably have it on the Epic Games Store now that I think about it, but I want to play it on Xbox and it's on sale. So might just totally blow past everything I just said, buy a physical copy. I don't know. It's probably cheaper that way. So like Alien Isolation is one that I always come back to. Dead Space, Callisto. I'm always repping Callisto. Those are probably my picks.
I know you said horror. First of all, I see Alien Isolation is $15 at GameStop right now.
10 on the Xbox store.
I don't know if you can find it cheaper than that. I know you said horror games. Alan Wake 2, obviously. Play Alan Wake. My mind goes not to horror games, but like spooky games. And I want to give a shout out to Pumpkin Jack. I love Pumpkin Jack.
I remember you talking about that one.
A 3D platforming collectathon game. You play as a guy with a pumpkin head, and it's just an awesome game. I got the platinum for that. I played that a few years ago, and it's just one of my favorite games that I don't feel gets enough love around this time of year. So check
very nice. Resident Evil 2 as well. The remake, very, very good game. Love Resident Evil 2.
Too scary for me.
Oh, it's such a good game.
Next question. Sam Heaney writes in, says, Xbox could do with an uncontested win this year in terms of new game releases after a few mixed receptions. Out of Flight Simulator, Stalker, and Indiana Jones left for this year, which do you think will land the best?
Which one will land the best? And Flight Sim is in the list. Oh, that's great. Out of all of these, I think that Stalker is going to be the one that lands the best. And that's also kind of like is it really a win though for Xbox? Because that's coming to PlayStation at some point in the future. Like it's a third party game that just happens to have this exclusivity, I would assume, deal or potentially just
3 months, I believe.
Is it only 3 months? So Stalker's coming in.
I'm almost certain that was like confirmed, like when it was supposed to come out 2 years ago or whatever.
Yeah. Yeah, if that is the case, though, whether it is or not, I think Stalker is going to be the one that lands the best. I saw a preview from, I can't remember if it was Jez Gordon at Windows Central or if it was somebody else, but apparently it's a much simpler game than you might think it to be. Like it's a little bit easier to pick up and play, feels kind of natural. So that's really made me more excited about it. I physically can't care less about Flight Simulator. I just like nothing in me has any interest in playing that. I did whenever they did the cloud gaming update, I kind of dove back into the original release a couple of years. Do not care. Like it's just not appealing to me at all. And then Indy, we've talked about of like, I think it's going to be a modern Tomb Raider game and I'm sure that it'll be fine, but I don't know if it's going to like light the world on fire. So I think Stalker is going to be the best bet of like hey, you need to play this game and Xbox is the only console that has it until potentially February, like that kind of thing, you know?
Ooh, February. Yeah. Silking it. Wow, Sam, really going for my throat today.
Sorry. I'm sorry.
Out of these, I guess to define which what do you mean by best? Best Metacritic open critic score? That's gonna be Flight Simulator, hands down. Like that's probably a 90 at least.
I think I would define this as, you're framing it as an uncontested win of this year. I think this is like public conversation,
like zeitgeist moment.
Yeah, general vibe online is that like, Stalker's a great game. Kind of like when I don't even want to like say this, but like when Power World hit in January, of like everybody just loving that game and talking about it so much, and then arguing about the legalities, but generally loving it.
Not great choices here. Tell you what, for that type of moment, none of these really get me up off my seat. If I had to pick one, I think Indiana Jones, if it hits, could potentially do that, just because it is like Xbox is propping it up as their big game this year. I just think Stalker is going to filter a lot of people. Like it's going to be hard, it's going to be difficult, and I don't see it like really catching on. And in my mind, it's different than something like Elden Ring, which totally blew up because like that's like a whole different conversation, I think, like Souls games and From Software compared to this small Ukrainian team making one of their difficult shooter games.
Right. Yeah. I don't think indie has the staying power of like, I think I've talked about it on the show before. Whenever I'm like scrolling through TikTok and I see a normal person that's kind of like posted some random thing about Elden Ring, and that's when I knew, I was like, oh, this is a cultural moment of not just me talking about it as a Dark Souls whatever on a podcast. Like that's when you know. I don't see anybody talking about any of these games on
No,
main if you want to talk about it like that.
no, I don't think anybody will talk about these games after like they're all out by December, like end of January. Like no one's gonna talk about these games.
Yeah, yeah, I would agree with that. But I mean, I'm excited for him. We're excited for him. We're on an Xbox podcast though, so like you know, you're talking about the uncontested win. That's a tough call.
Silkanet has the final question, and I should have maybe put through this one when I was talking about the Lake House DLC, but he says, I was thinking about Remedy during the last Bitcast where Hogue was saying Control doesn't have a good storytelling, and it's a shame from such good storytellers from Remedy. For me, the stories I played from them have all been okay, but their world building atmosphere is where they shine. So, question for the show: Do you and how separate were and how do you separate, I assume, world building, atmosphere, side notes, backgrounds, and actual story in your evaluation of the narrative?
That's a really deep question. And I think that for me, they both kind of like are two contributors to an overall stat. If I'm like rating a game in my mind, you know, my thoughts immediately go to The Last of Us, where I love the narrative of The Last of Us, but then you can go into each individual room and kind of like figure out what was going on here, both by reading whatever you pick up on the table, and then also looking at like the pictures on the wall, the book titles, the anything that's like sitting around. You can kind of tell that environmental storytelling is really intentional there, and then you can also find it scattered around in other games as well. But
Hmm.
that's kind of how I separate them, I guess, is that how alive does the world feel because of the little context clues that have been added to the environment versus what is the story that I'm actively involved in and participating in as a player. um, and I think that is something that Remedy does really, really well. Like you said, with the atmosphere and the world building, I think the storytelling is also fine. Like in Alan Wake 2, I think it was a really well done game, obviously for the Game of the Year nominations and awards that it got. Haven't played Control, still haven't played it, so I
You
can't talk
should.
to it. I should. I have it. It's ready to go. But that's kind of how I do it. I guess it's just two different stats that contribute into one bullet point in my like review in my mind.
I think you can have good world building and a bad story, but well, you can have both, but I think if you have good world building and a bad story, the game isn't gonna be good. Because for me, like the story, the central plot line needs to be good. Otherwise, all that world building you're doing doesn't matter at all. And this is something I've read in the reviews for Unknown Nine, which I was interested in playing, but I've seen a lot of people. I think Ty Guy Travis even says an IGN review, like it seems like they were more focused on setting up the world, the universe that they were trying to build, more so than telling an actual story about the characters in the game. So if you have that, that is when you're doing it wrong. I personally think Remedy nail both. I really like the story of Control. I really like the story of Alan Wake. They're all confusing. They're all like metaphors upon metaphors on similes, and you know you have to dig deeper into. Yeah, I did that on purpose for you. You have to dig. Yeah,
Refinaglios.
refinaglios. You have to dig deeper into what Remedy is doing, but they do nail the world building unabashedly. Like the amount of notes and lore built into these games that you stop and read. Like these are some of the only games that, oh, there's a projector here with a video. I will watch the entire thing. Like I will
Yeah.
put my controller down. It's been 2 minutes of just this in-game camera rolling. I don't care. I'm here. Like they had a whole, I don't know, it was like 15 minutes in Alan Wake 2 in that movie theater. I was like, this is a good time. Like I'm sitting back watching some weird theater going on. I don't do that for most games. I do it for Remedy because there's always hidden secrets. There's always some lore hidden in there. There's a deeper message. These things are meaningful in their games. I think The Last of Us does it well, as you were saying as well. I like they have a good story and then they build upon the world. Like especially I always go back to was it Bill in
Yeah.
the first game
Yeah. That was really good.
around it, like picking up clues around their house. Like there is some really good stuff there for building out the world and what happened, and that kind of stuff is fantastic. So you can have one bad, one good. When they're both good, it only elevates a game. But if you only have bad world building but a good narrative, doesn't really hurt the game all that much to me. But if you have a bad narrative and good world building, oof, it doesn't save the game.
Yeah, I think you got to give people something to care about. Like, this is a bad, not a bad example, but it's not the strongest negative example of this happening. But I think about Immortals of Avium, where I think we talked about it on the show, where it's like they did so much of the world building, and it's like, these aren't real things in the game. It's like the Council of Phenaclia is going to be coming after your macaroni strip. Like they throw a whole bunch of like random lore in.
It's exposition, yeah.
Yeah, they throw a bunch of random stuff at you, and you're like, I don't even care about these people yet, dude. What are you doing here? Mm-hmm. So you've got to like build that connection where The Last of Us is so impactful because you've got Joel and Ellie in this world that's falling apart. It's something that feels relatable. About Joel from the beginning with the loss of his daughter. Spoiler alert. But
5 minutes of the game,
yeah, of course. But you've got all that like that building to have that connection with the main character and what's going on right now, and then you can go out from there. You can't go from out to in and like try to rebuild it in reverse. It doesn't work that way.
Yeah, I would say a Plague Tale also does stuff similar, where like you aren't automatically thrown into the stealth sections, the being hunted, the rats. Like that's not what a Plague Tale starts off at. It's like you are a girl going out with her dad and like having these conversations. Like you're building up. Oh, we're in the French countryside. Like this is my family. Oh my, I have a sick brother. Like yada. Like you are getting to know the characters so you can be invested in the narrative. And then when things start happening, you can uncover secrets and like environmental things going on. Like that is how you do games.
Right. Yeah, I agree.
Well, Sam, that is all we have for this week's episode. Sorry, everyone, for the technical issues, but thanks for sticking with us. All right. Sam, you want everyone to know where they can find you, my friend?
Yeah, you can find me at JamPackSam on TikTok, Instagram, Threads, YouTube, all those fun places. I got some exciting stuff coming this weekend. A couple of things I can't talk about yet, but we have some things on the roster, so I'm excited about that. And then, of course, Black Ops 6. I'll be making some content around that and playing as well. So excited to dig in.
Can you make a no scope 360 kill for me?
I will try it. I will also throw some like mid 2000s emo music on it, and then a slow motion. I'll try to do a trick shot clip. Series.
And I'm gonna need you to also change your gamer tag to Optic Snipes. XX.
X lowercase x uppercase x JamPackSam XX. Yeah, it's great.
Better times. You can find me at the Muffin Mon everywhere. It's a 107I, 007A. Follow us at Save Game Media. Stay up to date with our latest content. And everyone, we will be live next Tuesday right here on YouTube. And then Extra Life is next weekend. So we'd love if you could come join us again for that 25-hour live stream. Whether you're donating or not, you can hang out with us, play some games, just have a good time. Appreciate everyone that can do that. But until then, we will see you